The story of railways in the city of Lincoln begins in the year 1846, when the Midlands Railway opened a line from Nottingham to Lincoln. This line terminates at the station of Lincoln St Mark's. 2 years later, in 1848, the Great Northern opens the Lincoln to Boston line. In this era of private railway companies and competition, they open their own railway termini in the city, naming it Lincoln Central. Also in 1848, the Great Central Railway opens their Lincoln to Barnaby line. They opt to share their terminating station with the Midland Railway at Lincoln St Mark's. In 1849, the Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint Railway opened the line to Gainsborough, connecting to the Great Northern's own solo network just outside the city. The Great Northern's rail yard, built largely on reclaimed land south of Brayford's Wharf, makes up the city's industrial heart. Also in 1849, the Great Central opened a Saxilby to Retford line, enabling a more direct connection to Lincoln. As part of this connection, a junction between the Great Central and Great Northern lines are opened up, enabling the Great Central to use both Lincoln Central and St Mark's as their stations. On the Lincoln to Boston line, best known as the Lincoln Loop line, Great Northern opens the Horncastle branch in 1855. In 1867, Great Northern opened the Lincoln to Hornington line. This line gives a more direct route to Grantham on the East Coast Main Line, and also offers a route to the Great Northern's network around Nottingham. In 1870, the Greetwell Ironstone lines open adjacent to the Great Central's line to Barnaby. Served by a horse-drawn tramway, attempts to introduce steam or diesel to the line never went anywhere. Great Northern opened a new branch on the Lincoln Loop line, Louth to Barnaby, in 1876. In 1882, the Great Northern and Great Eastern Joint Railway opened a new line to Sleaford. To connect to their existing line without going through the Great Northern's congested rail yards, an avoiding line south of the existing railway system is constructed. Also in 1882, Lincoln's first and ultimately only tram line opens courtesy of the Lincoln Tramway Company. It is drawn by horses. The Great Central Railway opens the Lincoln to Chesterfield line in 1897, connecting to the Great Northern's lines at Lincoln Central as well. In 1890, Thorpe Station, just outside Lincoln, becomes Thorpe on the Hill. In 1905, the Lincoln Tram is taken over by a new company, Lincoln Corporation Tramways. This new company electrifies the line using a unique stud system in the ground. The final major rail line to open in the region happens in 1913, when the Great Northern opens a direct branch to Skegness from the Lincoln Loop line. In 1919, the Lincoln tram line switches to overhead electric wires. The tram ultimately closes in 1929. The Greetwell Ironstone mines close in 1945. The same year, the railways are fully nationalised and Lincoln falls within British Railways Eastern region. The first major railway line to close is the Louth to Barney line. As the mines it was built to serve were never as profitable as anticipated, it closed to passengers in 1951. The Horncastle branch would follow in 1954, and the Chesterfield line in 1955. Thorpe on the Hill also closes the same year. The former Great Central Saxilby to Retford branch closes in 1959. Trains heading towards Sheffield must now take a slightly longer route through Gainsborough. The Louth to Barney line fully closes in 1960. In 1961, two stations on the Saxilby line, Ruskington and Blankley and Wetheringham, close. On the Lincoln Loop line, The connection to Boston is closed in 1963, leaving it as a line to Skegness only. The Lincoln to Chesterfield line fully closes in 1964. Lincoln to Hornington follows in 1965. On the Lincoln to Barnaby line, most stations are closed, leaving only Market Raisin. The Lincoln Loop line, with its connection to Skegness, finally fully closes in 1970, and the final freight services cease with the full closure of the Horncastle branch in 1971. For some good news, the Ruskington and Blankley and Meveringham stations that previously closed in 1961 are reopened in 1975. The latter now just shortened to Meveringham. The Lincoln Avoiding line closes in 1982. Railway service through Lincoln is consolidated to just Lincoln Central, and Lincoln St Mark's closes in 1985. The railway rerouted to go straight to Lincoln Central, giving us the network that we have today. In 1996, the Hull-based University of Lincolnshire and Humberside begins construction on a new major campus located mostly on what used to be the Great Northern's vast rail yards in the city. They become the University of Lincoln in 2001, making a new full era for the city. The university's library is built within what used to be a great central warehouse, and the Student Union building took over an old maintenance house. Their nightclub and event space is named the Engine Shed. In 2019, alongside new pedestrian works on the level crossing on the High Street, the major station within the city is renamed to simply be Lincoln.